What Donald Trump decided to do was to take appropriate military action against an invasion. That invasion comes from those terrorists. They invade the United States of America with boats loaded with this poison. It's distributed around the United States, and it kills tens of thousands of people every year. Now, let's assume that these terrorists, instead of using drugs, were using explosives. If they loaded up one of these boats with explosives and it was headed for the United States of America, and they had a distribution system in place, as they do for drugs right now, and they were distributing these explosives around the United States and killed tens of thousands of people every year, there wouldn't be a peep from anyone about the use of force by the President of the United States to stop this.
My question is, if the president is trying to stop drugs coming to the United States, why did he pardon the kingpin who built the cocaine superhighway that killed thousands of Americans? If, in fact, there's so much evidence that these boats are moving drugs, why wouldn't it be advantageous to board them, to arrest them, to collect the evidence and the understanding of the broader drug operation? And why wouldn't it be valuable to show the American people the evidence? My friends, wars are easy to start, but they are hard to end. And the consequences are often devastating. Look at the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Together, more than 7,000 American service members gave their lives. More than 50,000 service members seriously injured. Often devastating, lifelong consequences. More than $8 trillion in treasure lost. Launching another reckless war to depose an authoritarian leader in South America is not an America-first strategy. And without congressional authorization, it's unconstitutional. The prelude to this military action has been military strikes on boats off the coast of Venezuela. The administration has said they are acting to stop these boats from delivering narcotics. Well, there's a legal way to do that. And then there's an illegal way to do it. The legal way is for the Coast Guard to intercept the boats, to search them, arrest those present should narcotics be found. And the illegal way is to simply blow up boats in international waters. The legal path is the right way to go. The Coast Guard makes arrests, which allow them to collect evidence and information for broader counter-narcotics operations. Destroying boats and killing those aboard means no evidence or information that confers evidence of what was undertaken. Was it even a narcotics operation to begin with? It is either a war crime or it's a murder. It is a violation of our law. It is a violation of international law. We have a stake in the structure of international law because we want our troops to be treated in a right manner, not to be executed when they are out of the action, laying wounded on a battlefield, not to be murdered clinging to debris after their boat has been blown up. Our military forces don't summarily execute others because we don't want others to summarily execute our forces. That's the principle involved. So the president's extraterritorial, extrajudicial killings in the Caribbean are terrible policy, terrible principles, and a terrible precedent. And we are in a bizarre moment. Bizarre. President Trump, while saying he's trying to intercept drugs, just pardoned the kingpin who organized the narcotic superhighway that delivered 400 to 500 tons of cocaine to the United States of America. Juan Orlando Hernandez of Honduras, former president, convicted on overwhelming evidence of moving massive drugs to the United States of America, pardoned by President Trump. If you want to stop narcotics, you don't go around releasing the kingpins who organized this devastating assault on our nation. On November 29th, President Trump said that the Venezuelan airspace should be considered closed in its entirety, and commercial flights have been greatly reduced as a result. On December 2nd, Trump said the military strikes would, quote, start very soon, and, quote, we're going to start doing those strikes on land. So we don't have a moment to waste to be here on the floor of the Senate defending the Constitution, to ensure that the will of the people on issues of war are respected. If my colleagues want there to be a declaration of war, then bring that to the floor of the Senate, because that's what the Constitution says. And let's debate that. And let's see if there's a majority vote for that. And let's send it over to the House of Representatives and see if they agree, because we took an oath to the Constitution. Thus, I've come to the floor to ask unanimous consent for the Senate to pass the Prohibiting Unauthorized Military Action in Venezuela Act. Again, I thank my co-sponsors, Senator Kaine and Van Hollen, and also Brooks, Welch, Markey, and Sanders, who are stalwart defenders of the Constitution and the constitutional responsibility for Congress, not the President, to authorize war. The bill prohibits any federal funding from being used for the United States to wage war against Venezuela. To be clear, the bill does not prevent the U.S. from defending itself or its citizens against an armed attack. It does not prevent lawful counter-narcotics operations. It does not prevent humanitarian assistance to the Venezuelan people. But it does protect and defend our Constitution's essential separation of powers. So, Mr. President, as if in legislative session and notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Foreign Relations be discharged from further consideration of Senate Bill 3344, and the Senate proceed to an immediate consideration. Further, the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid up on the table.
Is there an objection? Senator from Idaho.
Mr. President, reserving the right to object. Mr. President, I come here, like my colleague, to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Since George Washington was president and he had to deal with a Congress, every president has had to deal with a Congress or members of Congress who really wanted to be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States. The Founding Fathers wisely said that that power shall lie in the hands of the commander-in-chief, the President of the United States. Over many, many years, presidents have used military force to protect the United States of America. Indeed, they take an oath that they will do so. Not only do they have the right to do so, they have the duty to do so. So, what are we talking about here? Donald Trump has made the observation, as has every American, that we are losing tens of thousands of Americans, both young and old alike, to illegal drugs that are brought to this country by terrorist organizations, mainly. And as a result of that, we have done, as has been suggested, law enforcement activities within the United States, outside the United States, and we have picked away at it and picked away at it, and it simply has not been effective. What Donald Trump decided to do was to take appropriate military action against an invasion. That invasion comes from those terrorists. They invade the United States of America with boats loaded with this poison. It's distributed around the United States, and it kills tens of thousands of people every year. Now, let's assume that these terrorists, instead of using drugs, were using explosives. If they loaded up one of these boats with explosives and it was headed for the United States of America, and they had a distribution system in place, as they do for drugs right now, and they were distributing these explosives around the United States and killed tens of thousands of people every year, there wouldn't be a peep from anyone about the use of force by the President of the United States to stop this. That is exactly what is going on here. There is no difference whatsoever. The President of the United States, has ordered the troops, when they determine that there is a boatload of these drugs headed for the United States, to sink the boat and put it on the bottom of the ocean. Now, I'm the senior Republican on the Intelligence Committee, and on this, obviously in this setting, I can't tell you the method or the means, but I can tell you that we have seen absolute, total, 100% proof that every single one of those boats that went down was loaded with drugs. So, as a result of that, the President of the United States has done good work so far in stemming the flow of these drugs to the United States. I have told the President face to face, thank you, Mr. President, for what you're doing. And I want to thank you on behalf of the parents who will not have to early bury one of their children because of the drugs that were coming into this country. Instead, those drugs are laying at the bottom of the ocean. Thank you, Mr. President, for what you did. Keep up the good work. Continue to stem the flow of these drugs coming into the United States. The President has the absolute right, and not only that, the absolute duty to do this. If you don't think so, take him to court and sue him. That's what you need to do if you think that that's right. There's no court in the world going to stop him from using military might of the United States to protect the United States, which is exactly what he is doing here. Based upon all that, Mr. President, I object.
Noted.
Would my colleague from
Senator
Idaho
Oregon.
yield to a question?
Does the senator from Idaho yield? He does. Proceed.
I do appreciate you yielding, because too often we have very little debate about these issues. My question is, if the president is trying to stop drugs coming to the United States, why did he pardon the kingpin who built the cocaine superhighway that killed thousands of Americans?
To respond.
Senator from Idaho.
I agreed to respond to questions relating to this. There is nothing in this that has anything to do with pardoning or has anything to do with the other country that you're talking about. So I'm not going to engage in debate on that issue.
Senator from Oregon.
Yield to more direct question to the bill at hand.
Well, the last one wasn't very direct, but if the good senator cares to have a direct question, I'll be happy to do that.
Senator does yield.
Well, I did think it was connected, because you said the mission was to stop drugs from getting to the United States. So it seems inconsistent. But if, in fact, there's so much evidence that these boats are moving drugs, why wouldn't it be advantageous to board them, to arrest them, to collect the evidence and the understanding of the broader drug operation? And why wouldn't it be valuable to show the American people the evidence?
Mr. President.
Senator from Idaho.
Yeah, Mr. President, Senator, first of all, that has been done over a number of years, and it has proven to be incredibly ineffectual. I've had lengthy discussions with the Secretary of State, who obviously is a person who's been focused on this area of the globe for a long time. And he says that they consider this, the terrorist groups consider this a cost of doing business, that kind of a boarding or what have you. But what's happened is, with those boats being sunk the way they are, with the people who are in the process of launching this attack on the United States are killed, that has drastically lowered the number of boats that are coming to the United States loaded with drugs. This is the most effective way to do it. Bless you, Mr. President, for doing it. Keep it up. Continue to put these drugs on the bottom of the ocean.
Oregon.
Thank you to my colleague for sharing your thoughts. At least there's a little bit of perspective on the difference of our opinions here, but I do appreciate you presenting your thoughts on this topic. Obviously, I see this profoundly differently, and some of my colleagues are here who would like to speak to this issue. Before I yield to them, I will just say simply, there is no justification in international law for executing people on the high seas and then executing survivors clinging to debris. And there's certainly no clarity that there was evidence of the sort my colleague from Idaho suggested, because it certainly hasn't been shown to the American people. And the setting the stage for this broader war on Venezuela, because we're going to have a new policy, a new Monroe Doctrine of the United States simply taking the law into its own hands throughout Latin America, South America, regardless of international law, regardless of treaties, regardless of whether it's even an effective strategy. It is wrong on every level in terms of effectiveness, but it is certainly wrong when it comes to this Constitution of the United States of America.